All right, seventh graders, we are working on some practice again today. We're going to start off with multiplying and dividing rational numbers. This is iExcel. To make sure I'm signed in first, make sure that you are always signed in first as well. Otherwise, you do all that work and it's not recorded, and you have to do it again. All right, we need to multiply and we need to answer as a proper fraction, whole number, or a mixed number. So when I see this, I have a mixed number and a fraction. First thing I want to do with that mixed number is rock around the clock. So I multiply 2 times 2, which is 4, and then I add 1, which is 5. So that becomes 5 over 2, and I multiply that times 1/4. Before I actually multiply, I can see if I can reduce either of these fractions or do any cross canceling. See, nothing goes into 5 and 4 evenly besides 1. Nothing goes into 1 and 2 evenly besides 1. So that's not going to reduce. 5 halves I can't reduce, and 1/4 I can't reduce. So that's going to be it. So I'm just going to multiply across numerators. 5 times 1 is 5. 2 times 4 is 8. I get 5/8. Then I have to think about, can I reduce that fraction? Does anything go into 5 and 8 evenly besides 1? And there's not. The only factors of 5 are 1 and 5. And 5 doesn't go into 8 evenly, so that would be reduced. It would just be 5/8. And we'll try another one. We have a mixed number and a fraction again. So first I'm going to rock around the clock. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 1 is 33 over 4 times 1/2. Now I want to see if I can reduce anything. Again, I can't reduce this fraction. The only thing that goes into 33 is 3 and 11, which doesn't go into 4. I can't reduce anything here either. No cross canceling. So I multiply 33 times 1 is 33. 4 times 2 is 8. That's improper, which I have to change to a mixed number. So I have to divide. 8 goes into 32, or 33, excuse me, 4 times, which is 32. Subtract, I get 1. There's 1 left over out of 8. So that becomes 4 and 1/8. So I'll plug that in. And let's try one more. Okay, same thing again. Mixed number, fraction. Rock around the clock. 1 times 5 is 5. Plus 4 is 9. I get 9 over 5 times 1/6. Now, I actually have something I can reduce. 9 and 6, 3 goes into both of those numbers. 3 goes into 6 twice. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 times 1 is 3. 5 times 2 is 10. I get 3/10. I can't reduce 3/10. It's already as simple as it can be, because there's nothing that goes into 3 and 10 evenly besides 1. So that would be it. Make sure my signs are correct, which they are. All right, we have decimals this time. We will just multiply our decimals and then worry about our signs at the end. Okay, so I'll set them up, line up the decimals. 2 times 5 is 10. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 1 is 11. Now I could do another row, but since it's 0, it's going to be a bunch of zeros. So I don't even have to do the second row. I have 2 numbers behind the decimal, so I move my decimal twice, and I just get 1.1. I could put 1.10, but those zeros on the end, behind the numbers, behind the decimal on the end, don't mean anything. So I can just leave them off. Oh, but I have a positive and a negative. A positive times a negative always equals a negative when multiplying and dividing. So I need to make sure I put that in there. All right, Khan Academy says we need to divide. We never divide fractions. We never divide fractions. So what we need to do is multiply by the reciprocal. So I have -5/2. I'm gonna keep, flip, change. This is called KFC. So I'm gonna keep the first fraction. I'll write that on the side, KFC. Keep the first fraction the same, flip the second fraction, which is 7/5, and change the division to multiplication. Okay, I know you guys have done this for sure in 5th and 6th grade already, so this should be familiar, KFC. Once we keep, flip, change, now we can see if we can reduce anything, simplify anything, and I see a 5 on the top and a 5 on the bottom. I can cancel those both into 1s, because 5 divided by 5 is 1, 5 divided by 5 is 1. There's nothing else that will simplify, so I do 1 times 7, which is 7, 2 times 1, which is 2. Don't forget, a negative times a positive is a negative, and I end up with -7/2. Now, Khan Academy doesn't mind if you leave it as an improper fraction. So I could divide to get a mixed number, but I don't have to. I can leave it just like that. Okay? And it told me I got it right, so I can go on to the next one. All right, we have 2/3 divided by -2/7. Again, we have to KFC, keep, flip, change. So we keep the first one, 2/3 is still 2/3. We flip the second one, becomes 7/2. It's still negative, we don't change the sign, we just flip the numbers, and we change division to multiplication. Again, we're going to check and see if we can simplify anything first before we multiply, and we can. We have some 2's that will cancel to 1's. 1 times -7 is -7. 3 times 1 is 3. And nothing goes into 3 and 7 besides 1. So that would be my final answer then, a -7/3. All right, good. One more. KFC one more time yet? I'll write that down again. KFC, keep 6/5 the way it was, flip the 5/8 to 8/5, change division to multiplication. See if there's anything we can cancel. Now this is where sometimes I see mistakes. People will see the 2 5's, like, oh, we can cancel those to 1 and 1. No, that doesn't work because they're both on the bottom. The only time you can cancel is if one's on the top and one's on the bottom. So those will stay 5's, and now we'll multiply straight across. 6 times 8 is 48. 5 times 5 is 25. And see if we can reduce that fraction. Does anything go into 48 and 25? The only thing that goes into 25 is 5 and 1, but that does not go into 48. So that would just stay 48 and 25. Good. Okay, on this one, negative signs and fractions. We're basically figuring out what the sign of our answer is going to be. Okay, what it comes down to is if you have an odd number of negative signs, your answer is going to be odd, or not odd. It's going to be negative. If you have an even number of negative signs, your answer's going to be positive. Okay, so we can just count. Odd number of negatives gives you a negative answer. An even number of negative signs gives you a positive answer, because two negatives cancel to make a positive. So I can see here I have 1, 2, 3 negatives. 3 is odd. That's going to become a negative. Okay, so this is a positive, doesn't match that one. This one, if we simplified it, those two negatives cancel and it becomes a positive as well. So it doesn't match that one either. It doesn't match either one of these. So it has to be none of the above. Okay, let's try another. Here it says, which of the following expressions are equivalent to this? We have two negatives, so it's going to become a positive. So here we have 2 as well. It's going to become a positive, so it would match that one. Here we have 2, it'll become a positive, so it's going to match that one. Matches both of those. Okay, again we have 2 negatives. It's going to become, it's even, so it's going to become positive. This only has 1 negative, which is odd. It would be negative. Doesn't match that one. This one also has 2, which is even. It's going to become positive, which is the same, matches that one. Very good. Okay, here we don't have any. It's positive. This has 2, which is even. It's going to be positive as well, so it matches. This one has 2, which is even. It's going to become positive and matches again. Okay. Dividing mixed numbers again. Okay, we have to watch our signs carefully, and we need to rock around the clock. So this first fraction, we would multiply 1 times 5, which is 5. Then we add 3, which is 8. We get 8/5, and don't forget the negative. The second fraction, we don't have to rock around the clock, so we just leave it how it is. Don't forget the negative. And then we're dividing. But we never divide fractions. So we have to do K, F, C. Alright, so we're going to keep the first fraction how it is, negative 8/5. We're going to flip the second fraction into negative 6/5. And then we're going to change division into multiplication. Okay? Then I look at my fractions and see if there's anything I can cancel. Doesn't look like anything's going to cancel, so then I multiply straight across. 8 times 6 is 48. 5 times 5 is 25. 2 negatives, when you're multiplying and dividing, become a positive. So my answer is positive 48/25. I plug that in. Check my answer, and we got it right. Another one. We have negative 2 3/4 divided by negative 5/9. Again, we don't divide fractions, so we're going to have to KFC. We're going to have to keep flip change. But first, I need to rock around the clock. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 3 is 11, over 4, the original denominator. Include the negative sign, that doesn't change. Flip the second fraction, becomes negative 9/5. Division becomes multiplication. See if there's anything I can cancel. There's not. So I multiply across. 11 times 9 is 99. 4 times 5 is 20. 2 negatives become a positive, so it's going to be a positive fraction. See if I can reduce 99 over 20. There's nothing that goes into 99 and 20. So if I wasn't sure, I could list out factors. Like 2 goes into 20 10 times. 4 goes into 20 5 times. None of those go into 99 evenly. Okay, so that would be my final answer, just the way it is. 99 out of 20. Okay. Now we have two mixed numbers. This is a good one. So I have to rock around the clock on both of them. Okay. So 1 times 3 is 3, plus 2 is 5. That becomes 5/3. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11. It's 11 over 4. Include the negative, keep that with it. Again, we don't divide fractions, so we need to KFC. Keep the first fraction, flip the second fraction, and change division to multiplication. See if there's anything I can reduce, which there's not. So I multiply. 5 times 4 is 20. 3 times 11 is 33. Positive and negative turns out to be a negative when we multiply or divide. Nothing goes into 20 and 33 evenly besides 1, because the only thing that goes into 33 is 1 and 33, 3 and 11. None of those numbers go into 20 evenly. So that's going to be my final answer. Negative 20 33rds.
Okay.
Keep doing your math, people.
Did you know that 5 times 5 is 25?
And 2 times 2 is 4. Did you know that? Yeah, we're so smart.
Yeah, we're so
If
smart.
you're watching this, everybody
You
yell
are great.
as soon as you see this.
Yeah,
Mr. Tesh said to
yell.
yell when you see this.
He said it was okay.
So just yell.
Be a jungle tiger.
Alright, on this last link, simplifying hairy fractions, the way they write it is they have two fractions stacked on top of each other. That's just another way of writing two fractions that we're dividing. So I can write that as negative 9/5 divided by negative 3/8. Now this should look more familiar because we never divide fractions. What we are going to have to do is KFC. Okay? So we keep the first fraction as negative 9/5. We flip the second fraction as negative 8/3. We change division to multiplication. Look if we can reduce, which here we actually can, because 3 goes into 3 once and 3 goes into 9 3 times. Now we can multiply across. 3 times 8 is 24. 5 times 1 is 5. 2 negatives when you're multiplying or dividing make a positive, so our answer would just be 24/5. Great. Again, this one we're going to figure out which step, if there's a mistake, which step the mistake is in. Okay, so first they just rewrote it using the division sign, like we just did in the previous example. Okay, they still have negative 4/5, they still have negative 8/3 in its division. Then they KFC, negative 5/4. They flip the second one to negative 3/8 and change division to multiplication. And then they actually multiply across. We can do some simplifying. That can become 4 goes into 4 once and 4 goes into 8 twice. So 1 times 3 is 3, 5 times 2 is 10. 2 negatives when multiplying and dividing becomes a positive. So that's where our mistake is in step 3. That should be a positive 3/10 rather than a negative. Step 3 is our mistake, and that's correct. Good, one more where we're finding the mistake. Okay, we write it from this form into using the division sign, but they moved the top fraction to be the second fraction, but that's not correct. The top fraction should come first, the bottom fraction should come second. So our mistake is already in step 1. All right, and that's it. Now you're ready to go.